Hello and welcome to Tokyo Inklings. My name is CY. You can find me on Instagram at Tokyo Station Pens.
And my name is Jacob, and I'm still alive.
Hello, my name is Khuê, and you can find me on Instagram at MidnightCat.
Hi, I'm Alesa. I'm Inky Rocks.
Let's see if we remember how to do this. Last time we were on air, we discussed about going to a monthly schedule. So that didn't really work out very well. So we're on a quarterly schedule as of now. But that's still okay because we haven't actually met each other in quite a long time. There have been some events. June and July were relatively quiet, more quieter months. But now we're mid-September, so a lot of things have actually happened. Before we go into the actual events that happen, I'm pretty curious to know if we have any new acquisitions. This is something that we used to do in a segment way back when, but since we haven't seen each other so long, has anybody gotten anything new?
Yes! Yes, so I was just telling Alicia and Jacob when I arrived, strangely, I didn't purchase any pen for months, maybe even 1 year, maybe. I have to check my Instagram, I don't remember.
I don't believe it.
And then in 1 week, three pens in 1 week, starting of the Maruzen Autumn Fair. And some will come soon, so I think it get back. Even if we want to leave it behind you, it get back very fast, like a boomerang. So Jacob helped me with the pilot cutlass for Usagiya, this Ohara Museum Art canal of Ovoshi. And I got it when I came back from San Francisco. And I want to thank someone who will recognize herself because I want to pay Jacob back, and it seems like that person paid the pen for me as a surprise gift. So thanks so much for your generosity and kindness, because it was really a very nice surprise. And then, as you know, I love Nakaya fountain pen, but they are usually very expensive, and you have the waiting list for at least one year and a half. So I was lucky when the Maruzen Pen Fair started. Nakaya was there for 3 days, the first days, and they got this. I don't remember the name anymore. Someone can help me. This facette, kind of like, how do you call this?
It's like a diamond shape.
Yeah, and I asked them maybe last winter when they released it, they showed a prototype, and they told me, it's at least 12 to 18 months waiting list. So I was like, I don't know even if I'm still in Japan 18 months, so let's wait and let's see. And
That's
so
the Tsumugi?
Yes, thank you. And we went with Alicia to this pen fair, and they were the 4 prototype, the 4 color there, and I was like, is it still the same? Do we still need to wait 12 to 18 months? Because I really like this pen. And they said, yeah, but we just sell 1 color to Maruzen, so they have 1 in their shelf. And which color is it? And they're like, the red one. I said, okay, it's a sign. So I just got this wonderful pen for so this year is my special birthday, so the whole year, I celebrate the whole year. And I got this, very dreamy pen. I really love it. And in the same time, another Nakaya that I ordered 1 year ago reached my door the same day. So it was a big Nakaya day. The Milky Way Raden, the Milky Way 2 Raden. So it's really sparkly, a lot of tons of radons on it. I think it can even glow in the dark, I guess. Yeah, that's from me.
Anything else?
Not that I think about. Yeah, there's the Shishikura, but I don't have it in my hand yet, so I cannot count as a new purchase, right?
Okay, so you definitely had a good shopping few weeks. And all of this you bought in the last 3 weeks?
In the last week.
Last week?
I was
So it's why I'm really proud I didn't buy any pen this year.
All right. And Jacob, any new acquisitions for you?
So one pen I forgot to bring, but which I thought was pretty interesting, was this new Moonman / Mahjong V1, which is this small, cute vac filler where with an oversized cap that covers basically the entire body except for the screw in the end. And we talk about how Moonman should alternate between blatant copy and original designs. Well, this is one what I would consider an original design. Maybe I'm missing some, 50 years ago someone made exact one. As far as I know, it's original. But one reason why I like it is that I found that I could very easily swap these old vintage Pilot Super 200 size nibs on them, right? Which is basically not number 5 size, and it's enough clearance in the cap. And what I like about this Pilot Super 200 nibs is that first of all they're dirt cheap. You can go on Mercari and find the pens for like 2,000 yen, 3,000 yen with like script nib, manifold nib, Falcon nibs, signature nibs. Right? They're really fun nibs and dirt cheap, and they fit perfectly on this pen. So that was one that I was excited about. The other pen is one I talked about before, but I bought more of, which is the Uniball 1P, which is my pen of the year. It continues to be. I was talking to Ame on Instagram a few days ago, and I said that the pen I've been using by far the most this year has been this one. It's like the perfect ballpoint because, well, first of all, I think like the sweet spot for ballpoint is sort of the sub 1,000 yen range, because if you go above 1,000 yen, you get this sort of twist motion pens, and you got metal pens and wooden pens, which I found less grippy and more hot and not as pleasant to use. This one sub 1,000 yen range, they typically have really satisfying knock. I mean, this one. I spend all day doing this. I love it, right? And it's girthy and it's very grippy and it looks adorable. And the thing is, for me, most of the time when I take notes at work, I walk around like on a trading floor and take quick notes while talking to users. And that's not the right time to do, expressive writing, flexes and flourishes and waiting for like the sheening ink to dry. I really need to take quick notes, and this is perfect for it. And it's adorable, it's cheap, and I love it. So that's mine.
All right.
Just compare some click notes with the capless.
Yeah, I mean, that pen really, I think, Uniball did something good with that, right? Like, it's cute, it's adorable, comes in, 8 colors?
2 sizes of nibs.
2 sizes of the
Refill.
refill. And yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's gonna be any more in that series, right? Seeing how successful worldwide it is. But I think it's also difficult to see what else they could do with it other than, new colors, I suppose. What would you want to see in a 2024 version?
Maki. It's perfect as it is.
Okay, we'll talk to Sophia about a Maki Uniball 1.
But what is very interesting too is like they make it shorter, but they use exactly the same refill as the normal Uniball, so you can use a bigger range of colors refill. I put the orange, like bright orange, in one of them, and it's very funny to just And some people start to mix them, so make a 2 tones Uniball. So it's very funny to play with them, and they are perfect for the passport size in the traveler's notebook too.
I like that. All right, Lisa, what did you acquire?
First, what was the name of that Moon Man?
It's
V1.
V1? Okay. And then the other comment is traitor.
Yeah, you have to be expelled from this podcast now.
This is now the ballpoint pen and fountain pen podcast. What was the question?
What have you acquired recently?
A couple of 3776s, a Riallo.
You can tell us which ones they are?
It was so busy. I was like Khuê. I kind of went on a kind of a buying diet, and then it's like I ate my first carb and I kind of went crazy. It's the same thing. I got the Bungu box Fujiyama.
Oh, you got that one too?
Yeah, that's the Riallo, right?
Yeah,
I did bring it. And
the
then
Oka.
And then I got the Oka, the 3776 Oka from Shishikura. I got the Uroko Gumo.
You got that with me.
Did I?
Yeah, we went to...
No, I thought we got the Pelican. Oh, I got
No, you ordered it while you bought the Pelican.
Oh, and I got a Pelican M1000. A Waterman safety pen.
This at the San Francisco Pen Show.
Yeah, and then something called BFD, and I think that's about it. Yeah. So I had a busy month.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All of this was in the past
Month. Yeah.
5 weeks, 4 weeks?
Yeah. I've been busy with other things in my life, and then all of a sudden I go, whoa, I need to catch up. So I did.
Yeah. And on my side, maybe I'm the most, I can be the most well-behaved or the least well-behaved, depending on how you see it. But I actually haven't bought a pen in months. Like, actually, I have not bought a pen in many, many months.
Yeah, but you produce one.
Yeah, so that's why I said, or you can, see it in the other way, where I bought 500 pens, but they're the same. They're the same pens. But that aside, maybe we'll talk about it later. I kind of started to buy these plotters again, and it's really bad. So maybe we'll talk a little bit about it later, about plotters specifically. But I have the first of all, I saw the Superior Labor bridal leather zip organizer in purple, and I thought, wow, that's really, really cool. And I liked how the wax kind of made it like a white, almost like a sheen on the leather. I thought, oh, wow, that's really cool. But that was sold out everywhere. So in May, Plotter went to the Chicago Pen Show, and they had a line of bridal leather plotters in different colors, and I saw this red one. So they had a red bridal, I guess, plotter, and I thought, you know what, I really want that. So I texted April and said, hey, can you save me the red plotter? And so she did. And then a few weeks ago at the San Francisco Pen Show, Plotter decided to release their first ever US exclusive plotter. And I think this is the first exclusive outside of Japan, called the Shiranami Blue. So I bought that as well. So I have the bridal in A5 and the Shiranami in Bible size. And it's really interesting because I think, and I'm going to pass it to Lisa right now. So the bridal leather is kind of stiff, right? But the Shiranami is super soft. And it's interesting. I particularly like the Shiranami because it's got a really interesting story behind it. It's hand dyed with indigo, so traditional aizome, and they've kind of kept the middle undyed. So if you see the sides, they deliberately didn't finish it, so you can see the white insides, and the white on the back of the spine. So those are my, I guess, two big personal purchases. I meant to go out to Tactile Turn to see if I can get a knife from them, but I was too busy during the show. So and I guess we'll talk a little bit about that later on as well. But these are my two big purchases for myself.
So that blue plotter, is that one also called Japan Blue? I read it was called Japan Blue somewhere.
So it's a confusing marketing copy, in my opinion.
Yeah,
but,
because I saw that and I thought it was like some kind of football thing, right?
Yeah.
I thought it was some
Grey
collaboration.
Blossom.
Yeah.
Grey Blossom.
Yeah.
Well, I thought it was some kind of collaboration with Japan's official football team, right? Samurai Blue as well.
Yeah.
But then I did some research and I found it was like a traditional indigo technique.
So what's confusing is that actually Knox has the same Japan Blue project with the same leather. Almost. But Knox's version has a finished edge, whereas this has an unfinished edge. So from what I understand, the Japan Blue project is this kind of idea where they make blue-themed items. And for Plotter, the Japan Blue project, I believe, is going to be at least a US exclusive, if not a general overseas exclusive item. But I'll show you later after we record. But it's pretty cool. It's pretty nice. I like the silver back behind. I think it really fits the theme well. So those are my personal purchases. But speaking of which, Before we go on to the events and to the shows, Jacob, you've been busy, in your personal and work life, but you've also been busy in the stationery world by writing for our favorite magazine.
Yeah, to be honest, I kind of regret signing up for that because it was just as I was getting more and more busy with work. And, the one reason why I haven't recorded is that this year has been like the busiest year so far in my career, which is a good thing, but it's like giving me less time for my hobbies. But I had this, at the same time, this commitment to write for Khuê and Alesa. So I've done that. I will write at least, I've written 4 of them so far. And I will have at least one more, and we'll see what happens after that. But in the most recent one, I was writing about how people outside Japan will get information about, events here and Japan special editions and so on. And I was sort of hinting at how some Japanese, retailers and brands in general, they're really bad at social media and like putting information online. And I just think like Ohashido, try to find out information about Ohashido, try to find out information about Kobayashi, try to find out information about Maruzen, right? It's really hard if you're not in Japan. But I mentioned, among other things, Alesa's YouTube channel. I mean, she's like the Inkunumak queen, right?
Let's give it up.
That's the most recent post.
Yeah, so interestingly, I think you write it in English and they translate it. Did I read that correctly?
Yeah, that's how they wanted me to do it. And I'm kind of happy with that because it's one thing to, send emails to a service desk and help get a computer replaced. There's something different to write Kohinata quality.
Yeah, and it's technical.
Absolutely.
Like it's really technical.
Yeah.
Plus it's like it's the premier, stationary fountain pen magazine, and I think if you had some weird way to say something that wasn't quite, it just kind of puts you on the spot all the time.
Yeah, and I had so little time to actually work on this. So the most recent one I wrote on the Shinkansen, on my iPad on the Shinkansen up to my in-laws' place when I had like a little bit of time off. That was like the only time window when I could write it. So I'm happy that they allow me to write in English.
So how does one become a writer for Shumida Bungubako, just in case any of our listeners want to, take over your burden?
Yeah, what we're not saying here is that Shumi no Bungubako it really is like eye candy magazine. It's all about like it's the best fountain pen magazine out there, I think, and I think it's a real coup. I mean,
Well, it's sort of don't call us, we call you, right? They reached out to me.
Okay. So somebody at Shumibun reached out to you and you agreed to write this. What was the background behind getting you to do it though? I mean, I think from what I understand, they wanted to kind of show a window of how the outside of Japan world interacts with Japanese stationery. Yeah. Is that correct?
Yeah, and they had seen, my Instagram, seen my blog, and I'm not sure they mentioned the podcast, but it's mainly Instagram.
Yeah, and it's not like you were in that magazine a couple years ago, right?
As you were, CY.
But yeah, I think that's really interesting. You've got some really good articles. How can people read your articles outside of Japan?
I think some retailers in the US sell it. I'm sure you can get it on Amazon, but you can get the Kindle version from Amazon.
Yeah. And I believe there's also an iPad version where you can download it. Of course, it is as we said, it's a premium magazine, probably one of the best hobby magazines out there in circulation right now. So there is a cost to it, but definitely check it out. Check out Jacob's work. From my side, I've also been pretty busy. Something that I've told some people kind of in passing is that I've actually started to work part-time at Designphil 3 days a week since July. And so...
Should that have been a disclaimer for your plotter purchase?
This is what I'm disclaiming right now, right? Yeah, so it's been pretty busy, but pretty interesting to see how one of our we always talk about their products, right? There's Travelers, there's Plotters, there's MD. There's a lot of, I guess, overlap in terms of what they do and the fountain pen world. So it's pretty interesting to see the other side of it. So obviously also colleagues with April now, so we talk a lot more about work stuff too. But yeah, that's been taking a lot of my time as well. I will say that the biggest complaint that I have about working for Design Phil is I have to commute to the office, and that's just terrible. I mean, it's like 3 hours of my life gone every day. So Yuri, if you're hearing this, I don't want to commute anymore. Next year, let's make it happen. But yeah, it's pretty interesting. I got to go see their factory on a factory tour, and see how all the products are put together. It's definitely a large scale operation, and them being a Japanese company, they definitely do things differently from what a Western company would do. So I've also been to some other factories whose companies I won't name, but yeah, they definitely have different focuses and different kind of identities. But just as a company that survived for now in their 74th year, right? That's a huge accomplishment. Something that I did was I got one of their gold foiling paper, and then I started foiling like my own stuff with like metal stamps. So that's been pretty fun. And then on top of that, I started my own company. So I started a company last month. So everything has been pretty busy. I'm running around basically every day. And having started a company now, I realize why there are no entrepreneurs in Japan. It is a pain. But yeah, that might have also contributed to why I haven't gotten as much stuff.
Congrats.
Thank you. So moving on to the event portion of our podcast today. So some of us were not in the country for a while, and one of us stayed in Japan. So let's, I think, Alesa, you were the first one to go to the U.S. You had some family to see.
Right.
And then I went out on Wednesday of that week, because usually it's pretty brutal if you go like on the day, and your luggage might get lost. You need a couple days to kind of make sure that everything is ready. I always try to get out a few days early just to get over the jet lag, particularly when we come from Japan over, to get over the jet lag. But it definitely sucks if you have like, you're there, none of your stuff is there. It happened to some people last year at the DC Pen Show as well. So definitely would recommend going out a few days early. So I arrived on Wednesday, show started on Friday, and landed almost immediately, meetings every day. With retailers, but also with colleagues, etc. And I think, did we eat dinner the first night?
God, it's
Oh, no,
so
we didn't.
blur.
We didn't.
It's a
We didn't.
blur.
Yeah.
We had some.
No, we had lunch the second day.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
we had lunch the second day.
The absolute best Mexican food in the world.
Yeah,
It was
but
good.
I have to definitely shout out Jessica
Yeah.
at
Thank you,
Bez
Jessica.
House. She's amazing. She picked me up from the airport. She basically, took care of me almost the entire weekend. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. But she took me to this taco place in San Bruno on the first day, and that's where we went the second day. But I was so busy. Hiroko actually came to the San Francisco Pen Show as well, and I wasn't able to go pick her up because I was in a meeting. But they made it safely. They saw they saw a bunch of the other Japanese vendors and retailers. And then that night, which was Thursday night, I don't even remember who I ate dinner with Thursday night, but we went out to eat dinner. I came back and somebody tapped me on the shoulder, says, "Oh, hello there." And I turn around and, my face was stoic, but inside I did a little jump. And who was that?
Was it me?
Was it?
I'm not sure. Did I go to San Francisco?
So, Khuê, why don't you talk a little bit about, what was the big surprise and what was your story in that?
So, my friend Ayako from Cutting from Japan was going to San Francisco with Eric from Eric Small Thing, the Hanko artist. This account where she hand carved rubber stamp, very tiny little motif. And with April, I think they discussed for a while that American customers and friends really enjoy Eric's work, and maybe they could make a workshop together and make it happen at San Francisco. And Ayako contacted me as we were working together on her new physical shop last spring. If maybe I could be interested to fly over with them, so when they are doing the workshop, someone can take care of the booth, because they will sell some of Eric stationery and design at Q-Thing from Japan's booth. And I was, why not? I have to see, as usually I'm in Switzerland in the summer to visit my relative. I have to see if I can manage it, to see if the kids can be in daycares in Japan, because I cannot bring them with me. If not, it's too much. So we were talking back and forth, but nothing really, happened, because everyone was really busy and they didn't know if they will make it or not. And it was a bit blurry. So I said, anyway, I don't say anything to anyone, because in case it doesn't happen, everyone will be upset, me first, of course. So let's just see if it happened, and if not, that's for another year. And finally, around June, things start to get, more serious. We bought the ticket, everyone checked their passport, and that's it, we had it. And I was going to Switzerland first, and I knew that I could tell you, of course, and they say, hey, you know what, I will joining you in SF. But at the same time, I was like, we are so close to it. If I can keep it like a surprise, like a secret, then it will be more kind of funnier. And we managed it. So Ayako didn't say anything. Some of our common friends knew. April didn't know I was coming. April knew that someone was coming to help Ayako, but not who. Esther knew, but she kept it for herself. Thanks, Esther, too. And I told some of the friends in LA so they can move to San Francisco for the weekend, and I can at least see them some hour at the pen show, like Eunice or Ame, who finally couldn't make it. But it was kind of funny to prepare this behind the scene. And so I surprised CY that night in the lobby of the hotel when we reached to the venue. And some hours after, I met Alicia in front of the elevator. In April, I met her in the Japantown. I was asking her, I was behind her, I was asking, oh, do you know how much is this item? And she was like, it's a Daiso, come on, everything's 100, like $1 or something. And I had sunglasses on. So she's looking at me and saying, who's this person who doesn't know that Daiso sell everything at the same price? And no, it was really funny. And to meet everyone, a shout out to everyone that we meet in real life. I think either from Eric, Ayako, and I, it was so much love sharing at our table, our booth, at the workshop. I don't remember all the name now. I cannot list everyone, but you know who you are. A big shout out to Emily, who helped us on the first day. I was alone when they were doing the workshop, and the queue was crazy long. There was nothing else on the table anymore because people took everything. I couldn't have time to put everything back on the table and in the same time,
do the checkout.
Yeah, do the checkout, exactly. So Emily just stopped by, so I was completely overwhelmed, and she just helped me. And then Alicia too stopped by at some point to get some. So it was really lots of love, lots of fun. And next year we said we kidnap Jacob and bring him with us.
So, Lisa, when you found out, what was your reaction to her?
Well, I had never met Ayako before, and there was a lady with her, and she brought her daughter with her. was walking up to me like she wanted to talk to me, and I didn't know who she was. And they had done that to like sideline me.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at her, and she's kind of creeping up to me, and then that's when Khuê tapped me on the back and. What did you say? You said something probably snarky to me or something.
Is this where the pen show will?
Or something like that, yeah.
And were you shocked?
It took me a couple seconds to figure out who you were.
Yeah.
I mean, because I didn't make the connection, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, of course I was.
These people were super sneaky
I
because
know.
because Ayako called me and I went to her shop because she wanted to ask me some things about actually going. I said, well, you need to make sure you register for ESTA. You need to, make sure you have passports. Because I think Eric didn't have a passport, right?
In June, yeah, at some point she was like, oh, my passport is not up to date, so...
I actually saw you.
So yeah, I just came back from Switzerland. We
Yeah.
meet so I can share my
Yeah.
suitcase of Swiss cheese and double
Yeah.
cream with you, and then I met Jacob too just before, and I told Jacob, I'm like, oh, keep it a secret, but I'm leaving tomorrow for San Francisco.
So Jacob knew?
Yeah, because we
Oh,
met just.
double traitor. Oh my gosh.
I asked him.
Did you know he knew?
No.
No,
Oh,
I asked him.
man.
I asked him. I said, don't tell them I'm leaving. But you were already in the US, and I knew that you won't have time to meet each other, so I was sharing with him the secret. And I made you CY on, I think, 3 days before I was flying out.
Yeah.
So I couldn't even get back on the jet lag from
Yeah, from
Europe,
Switzerland.
and I already was in a new jet lag.
So I think there's several different interesting perspectives here because obviously I was a vendor, Khuê, you were a vendor, and Alesa, you were more like a
Shopper.
attendee, right?
I was a shopper.
So I already talked about my vendor experience last year, but this year was, I think, especially Friday morning was just absolutely insane. Also because we had Hiroko, so we were expecting a big crowd, but at 8 o'clock, before we can even finish setting up, the crowd just came pouring in immediately. We had 50 to 100 people crowding our table, and your room was in the inner ballroom, so you could actually see that crowd, right?
We were the same. We were the same.
Yeah.
The thing is you have these people who can have the 3-day pass and then
Yeah.
access on the fair on Friday morning from 8 a.m. But we could only get in the room at 6 a.m. to set up because the night before they don't have any security, so they ask us it's better to not leave anything in the room. So you just completely kind of still a bit jet lag, a little bit tired from the day before, and still setting up while people just enter, but by waves.
Yeah.
And just grabbing everything we didn't even put everything on the table yet, and it was just, and I could see your table from our table. It was the same.
Yeah.
Hurricane. Yeah.
I think our table position wasn't necessarily the best because we were in the hallway, and I felt bad for Kirk Spear, who was in the table next to us
At the end. Yeah.
at the very corner, but then nobody could get to his table because there was a bottleneck that just happened at my table because there was also the door into the ballroom. So I think they definitely have to rethink the table there. But without going into too much of these really minor details, how was your feeling to be a vendor at the show? Because this is your first time being a vendor at a pen event, right?
Yes. So it's completely different to be a vendor at the show and to be a vendor in a shop. The kind of it's. I think we knew that all the waves were 8 a.m. then 1 p.m. on the Friday. People buy the 1-day ticket, and then on Saturday will be the same 8 a.m. and then 10 a.m. For the 1-day ticket. So we kind of understood that we have to be ready. The table has to be ready for these opening doors because it will be just crowd coming.
And
but
was it ready?
The Friday morning was completely insane. I think no one's expect that at all. We were okay, we are a stationery brand. Ayako is a stationery brand from Japan. Eric is an artist from Japan. A lot of people like us, but it's stationery people, and it's a pen show. So we were we will have some customers. They follow us on Instagram. They say they will come, but we didn't expect this amount of customer in a so short time. And at 9 a.m. they were leaving for the workshop or 9:30, and the workshop will start at 10. So we just opened for 1 hour, and I was looking at Ayako in her. I was looking at her eyes. I was almost crying. I was like, "You cannot leave me alone." And just before the show, I was like, "Oh, I'm feeling very confident. We'll be fun. We'll meet many people." But at the moment, it was just like, I cannot. It's impossible. I can. There's so many, and you don't want people to queue. You know, you don't want people to be impatient. You hope they are. And usually they are. All the customers are really kind, very nice, and we have this system because we cannot have the credit card machine, so you have to send an email to the customer as they buy on the online shop. So it takes 2-3 minutes by customer. It's not like 30 seconds or. So it takes some little minutes, and at some point we're like, oh my god, it will be crazy. But luckily, at around 10 a.m. the wave calmed down a bit, and it was nicer, much nicer. But the first hours was, I don't remember. Sometimes it was so automatic. I don't even see who I was checking out. And some people text me later, say, I want to say hi, but you are so concentrated on the computers. So I don't even, and I was like, oh, you have to, next time please say hi, because we follow each other for years. And so some people I didn't even, they come back the next days or stuff like that, but it was really crazy.
So did anybody come up to you and say, hey, I know you from the podcast?
Yeah, so this we laugh a lot with Alicia, because a lot of people come to us and say, oh, so you're Mirai Cat. Why don't we hear your podcast? And you must say, which podcast? The one you used to have in Tokyo. I say, but it's not mine. And they ask for Alicia, where's Alicia? We love her podcast. I say, but it's not hers too. And we're like, okay, we will tell the guys we need to gather and make a record, because people are really enjoying and think it's our podcast. So it's not our podcast. We are guests.
We have to give the people what they want. On my side, I also I learned from this checkout thing last year. So I think one of the first things I did when I came back last year is I signed up for Stripe. So not sponsored, but I signed up for Stripe, and they have an app. And with the app, I could have a tap to pay by credit card directly on my phone. So that was really, really good. Okay. Sometimes the tap to pay wasn't like exactly the best, but still it was much better that people could pay by credit card rather than they have to PayPal me or cash or whatever. Especially since we were doing, let's just say, numbers that were much higher than last year.
Oh, good.
Right. So I think it was definitely the right choice. So maybe if you go again, definitely
I think
consider.
This year everything was new for Ayako, and we learned a lot.
Yeah,
it was a very good experience. We learned a lot, and if she happened to Eric want to come back, we are in, I'm sure.
So are you going back?
We need to find another way to surprise you guys.
With Jacob.
Exactly, in my suitcase.
He's gonna tap us on the back.
Yeah.
So see why I have to ask. So since you were like reselling a bunch of Japanese pens and ink, did the pens you thought would sell well, or were you surprised about what sold, what didn't sell?
That's a super interesting question, because I don't know if you guys remember, but from about 2 years ago, I kind of said that I think the sailor wave is going to come down. Mm-hmm. Right. And but last year was still kind of mid-wave-ish. And this year, I think it's really just come, like, it's come to a halt. We had Shishikura pens on the table, and we had different, like, interesting sailors out on the table. And then we had the Kobayashi Platinums on the table. I also had the Maruzen Nakaya and the Maruzen Custom Urushi on the table. And all the platinum stuff they sold almost immediately, day one-ish. I think one of them sold on day 2. Of course, the Custom Urushi sold on day 1, and somebody just picked up the Nakaya and said, okay, here you go, here's my money. But nobody even picked up the sailors. Like, I don't even think it was about the price because they didn't even pick it up to ask how much it was, which was a little bit surprising. I did expect them to not sell as well as other stuff, but I didn't expect there to be almost no interest in sailors anymore. And I think this really goes to show that Sailor's been kind of shooting themselves in the foot because they've just released so many products. I counted actually the other day. I counted that they released 33 products in 35 weeks this year, right? So it's just a crazy amount. I think there's definitely Sailor burnout. The inks sold pretty well. We didn't sell out of all the inks, but it's okay. We sold most of them. But definitely the biggest thing was that Sailors, they didn't move at all. And we learned this also from the California show as well. So that's why I didn't actually acquire any new Sailor pens for this particular show. But yeah, it was kind of jarring to see that in the last, 5 years, everything was about the latest and greatest Sailor. And, we even had an episode where Khuê said that Sailor was on top. But unfortunately, I think now Sailor is on the bottom.
But so related to that, I think previously most of the standard Sailors were most like, the OIG black and gold, black and silver. And if you wanted a colorful Sailor, you had to go through all kinds of hoops to get them. And also you could catch them all, right? You could have all of the interesting limited editions in one like Toyota tray, basically. Like they were collectible in that sense, right? Mm-hmm. They're not really collectible anymore because there's like an infinite number of them. So
they're collectible if you're a Saudi prince.
Sure. Yeah, sure. But so how much do you think it is that people were like, look, I'm just gonna look, I want like an orange Sailor. And once I find an orange Sailor, I'm set. And now you can find them in a color of the rainbow. And how much is it that you just can't collect them really anymore?
I think price is also a big factor.
But you said they were not even looking at the prices.
They weren't even looking at the prices, but I think the general conversation around Sailor, even before the show, is that they've gone out of control. So
it's the same like you remember we have this wave of Tonoen limbs?
Yeah.
At some point we were like it's overwhelming. There is one new color every 2 days. And I think for now they disappear for a while. Like it's calmed down a lot. Yeah. So I think for themselves they try to develop something else, and at some point maybe Sailor is the same. They reach kind of like the peak, and now they have to think about something else. They cannot just produce a new color anymore.
But I think Jacob, you have a point about how they've kind of become uncollectible. So you have to have like these capsule collections, right? You can collect all of the Shishikura, but you can't collect all of the X unknown retail exclusive whatever is like. That's just become so unfeasible. And I think also the way that Sailor has diluted the value of their own retailers exclusives by launching these like they have these random cocktail or like manyo or whatever, but then they release like 10 at the same time, which just makes it not. I think it takes the excitement out of it. I think it's like when you play a video game, right? And then you play the, all your bases belong to us cheat code, and for a while that's pretty fun, right? For a while you're like, hell yeah, I've got everything. I have unlimited resources. And then after a while, it's just like, well, there isn't really a challenge or a point to it. And I think that's what happened to Sailor, whereas Pilot, maybe they're kind of on the other extreme of it, right? They're like they're too hard to get. Whereas maybe Platinum now is in that little sweet spot.
Yeah,
actually.
I agree. And the most recent one, which of course Alesa got, I think seems to be that's exactly what Platinum should be doing, right?
Even the converter has the
it hits all the spots. It has rose gold.
Yeah.
It has that silk screen stuff on it. It's got a nib If the 3776 had a finial, it probably would have a finial thing on it.
Yeah.
The
And even
converter.
the
A section.
the section,
The section has some glitter. Yeah.
glitter,
Right.
very tiny glitter.
Yeah.
Like we were talking about that with Alicia. It's like it's the same as she could have when she launched the first
Exactly.
Sailor Pro Gear collection. She go very strong,
Yes.
and the more she add, we say the summer one, the old one, the lemon, the color get less sparkly. I don't know why, but it's very mute, something like that, and you're like, okay, a new one, but it's not that strong anymore. It doesn't have this
Yeah,
first
the impact.
price
Yeah.
impact anymore, which is. But at the same time, the new one, the Mai Sakura, a lot of people ask how to get it. Is it possible to
Yeah.
order it? I don't know. You send me some people. You ask me if I will go and take it. I think around 12 to 15 people asked me the last weeks how to get it. So it depends of the models, depends of the color. Everything who has Sakura is on point.
But even that one, usually in the past, I would get like 15 or 20 inquiries. That one, I got one inquiry.
But the price is crazy too.
Yeah.
The price double compared to the first one.
Yeah. And I think that's also the meta conversation around sailors, which is why I said that I think price has a factor to do with it, is that sailors used to be, they were never cheap, but they were relatively more affordable. And again, I'm not opposed to price increases, but I think for what they're putting out in the market versus what they were putting out in the market 2 years ago, essentially almost exactly the same product, but now at double the price. They had not planned their price increases for the last 10 years, and then everything just came all at once. So I think that's definitely a challenge.
And I think maybe Shishikura realizes that too, right? Because there must be a reason why she now did both a sailor, which is probably some contractual obligation to do that, right?
Yeah.
And then she did a platinum. Because the thing is, as you said, these Shishikura sailor pens become less and less like desirable. Like you can go to Mars and now you can still find the lemon, you can still find the owl. Like they don't sell, right? And this one probably will be available for a long time as well. While this new platinum, like the price is right, the design is right, it's perfect.
Yeah, I mean, I have my own qualms about platinum, but I think definitely they're probably winning in this aspect of how to control that better than they were in the past.
Which is kind of interesting because platinum is the smallest, we talk about this, of the pen makers, right? So you would imagine that they would have less like efficiencies that they can leverage, right? In terms of like purchasing and, manufacturing, right? You would think
And
that
they're also privately held, so they don't have an injection of cash.
Right. While Sailor now, in theory, on paper, have more resources than they ever have, right? So, and they do use those resources to, as we said, to launch like 1 million models, but they don't seem to use it to really control the costs.
Yeah, and I think it's obviously I'm not in Sailor's board or affiliated with Sailor in any way, so I don't actually know. But my speculation is that they kind of saw what happened with the earlier limited editions, and they realized, oh, people really like color, so let's make a bunch of colors. And I think there wasn't really a longer term thought on, hey, what's the strategy of keeping our brand valuable? And I think that's a real challenge. Whereas Platinum have, on the other hand, they've suffered from this, right? For a long time, there aren't 1 million Platinum models. There's actually very few Platinum models. They don't have a lot of different size nibs, etc. But they realized that, hey, the Shunkei series worked really well. Let's go again with a yearly release of now they're doing the cloud, the Fuji clouds, right? So they're taking it slow. They're not trying to get everything at once, and it kind of builds and protects that brand a little bit more.
Yeah, they probably got burned right?
Yeah.
They've had some failures recently, so and maybe that was costly for them. So maybe
Yeah.
the fact that they are being careful now is paying off.
It's a business cycle of the pen industry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas Pilot, they just don't care.
Well, the thing is, I mean, they're doing so well, right? So Sailor's gross margin is less than 30%, and they are now in the red. Pilot's gross margin is over 50%, and their sales are just increasing, profit are just increasing. They're doing fantastic.
But speaking of then Pilot, something that had released while we weren't on air is the Pilot 743 Verdigris,
Yes.
which is the green US exclusive Pilot 743. What do you guys think about that? Because you have one, right?
You have one too,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
What do you think about that? Like that kind of strategy or that kind of, well, let's talk about the pen first and what it means for the business.
So this is the first time, isn't it the first time the 743 was launched in the US? It has been available in the US before,
And you might be right. They might have only had the 823.
Yeah, so, I mean, just been a running joke here that for pilots you can have an interesting nib or an interesting, pen. Pick one, right? Here at least they're attempting to give you both. I think they could have done a little bit more than just, opaque
Green.
Opaque green, right? But it's in the right direction. I would have loved to see a bit more.
Yeah.
Didn't it sell well though? I
think it did.
sold really well. Yeah. So I mean, just Pilot, burping up a color, helped a whole lot. So yeah.
But why do you think they decided to do that in green rather than just, give them a black one? And why only in the US? Why not, in Japan too?
Japan has been well served with all kinds of limited editions. Right? US has been starved for interesting Pilot pens, right?
Yeah.
So I think maybe this was an experiment to see if it works, and I'm sure the decision to go with a colorful one was not just some guy's hunch. It was probably a data-driven decision, and I think it was the right decision.
Yeah.
But is the custom 74, with the 3 different barrels, is that sold in the States?
No.
Oh, okay.
That's the 15th anniversary, right? No.
Right.
With the signature nib.
Right.
So that's not sold in the States either. But yeah, I mean, it does look like Pilot's throwing a bone to the US. Like, here you go. Especially, I think US must be their second largest subsidiary outside of Japan, probably in terms of just raw numbers. But yeah, we'll see. I wonder if they'll do something for Pilot Europe now, because if the US gets an exclusive, Europe's going to say, hey, why don't we get an exclusive as well? So yeah, we'll see what happens there.
In Europe, they've had, I think, fewest models and the worst prices for a long time.
Yeah. But hey, at least they get to design the caplesses every 2 years.
But they always do this black and silver metal ones in Europe, right?
Yeah. Maybe that's just the market there. I mean, we do see more metal pens in Europe too, just in general. But yeah, so we kind of also, by proxy, then gone through a little bit of the Marzen event, the Autumn Pen Fair. But I haven't been there yet. How was it? The Autumn Pen Fair.
Well, there's sort of 2 of we used last year, but there's no. It's kind of weird because the Marzen one is really started in late August, right? Because that's when they started selling the various inks again. They had a big display, and they've had various, been selling various glass pens, and it's been sort of an ongoing. It was no obvious right day to go because there was no big starting day of the event. It's just been sort of going on now for a few weeks. It's not a huge event. It doesn't feel like that.
It's not a destination,
right?
No.
And in Nihonbashi, it started Wednesday. I think I went Thursday, and I couldn't tell that there was anything going on. I just knew from my pamphlet that they sold something. So I don't know.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out later today.
But the pens are nice. But the most interesting pens are actually originally meant for the Kansai market, right? So there were 2 pens. There's the Eboya, it's an Eboya Koboe, and there's also a Sailor Progress Slim Mini.
The ones on your story.
Right. And both of them are, the name of them is 1970, it's 1970 resin and 1917 Eboya. 1917 is the year when Marsden launched its iconic Athena ink line, right? And the Athena ink bottles, they are green and they're like dark blue and have a bit of orange, right? So those pens both have a bit color blocking with those three colors. And the cell in particular, I think, looks great, and with the little laser engraved Athena nib and with Athena logo, and a bit of translucency on the barrel. It looks fantastic. I think that's one of the most interesting Marsden sailor pens in a while.
Speaking of Eboya, then let's move to the last topic of the day. I was very lucky to go on an Eboya factory tour.
You went up to
Yes, to Arakawa. And so I went to the factory tour, and the Endo-san's wife, I forget her name right now, but she gave us a little history of Eboya and of Nikko Ebonite in general. So I'm curious how many of you know why Eboya exists as a pen brand.
You already told me, so
Yes,
I'll be quiet.
You're gone. So Jacob, this actually has to do with maybe your industry, but says we're doing the factory tour, and she told me, and I asked why did Nikko Ebonite decide to do pens, because it's kind of random, right? Like, a lot of the stuff that they do are for like windpipes and guitars and like music or some like industrial uses. So why make pens? What's the story of Eboya? And she said, oh well, we launched Eboya because of the Lehman shock.
Has it not been around longer than that?
No.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought it's been around for like many decades. Wow, that's interesting. I was here during the Lehman shock.
Yeah, so Nikko Ebonite existed since the 50s or even earlier, I believe. But they've been around for a long time. But the Eboya brand, and why they started making pens, is because during the Lehman shock, they lost a lot of customers. So they had nothing to do, and they had to basically furlough everybody. They weren't taking a salary, and they're just bored out of their minds in the factory. And then they went into some warehouse, and they found this red thing. And then it sounds like, what is this thing? Is it ebonite? Because all they were doing was black. They're like, I don't know what this thing is. Is it ebonite? So they decided, with all of their free time, that hey, why don't we try to make ebonite in colors? So after some trial and error, they're trying to make it. They're like, can we even make it in color? So they succeeded in making or recreating a rod of red ebonite. So now they've got this colored ebonite. They're like, what do we do with this ebonite? Oh, we don't know how to use this. It's just there. So,
but they must have been selling ebonite to pen makers for a long time, right? Because
correct.
Right. So they're not. They know that is a thing, right?
They knew that it was a thing, but they weren't actually making anything, right? So they didn't really know like how to do it, but they're just like, well, we don't really know what we can do with this thing. So so what happened was that because they have this thing now, so they decided, oh well, where they're based in Arakawa-ku, there's this like big park where the city kind of hosts these flea markets for teshigoto. And so they said, okay, well, why don't we bring our rods of ebonite that we have no idea how to use, and we have all the time in the world because we have no customers right now. We'll just bring it up there, and we'll show what we can do, as in make the ebonites. And so they did, and it just so happens that a lot of platinum, older or retired platinum craftsmen live in Arakawa because Platinum or Nakaya's headquarters is in Ueno. So some of these Platinum craftspeople, they walk by, they're like, "Oh, is that ebonite?" And Endo-san's like, "Yeah, it's ebonite." And they went, "Oh, it's so natsukashi. Okay, we used to make pens out of these." And then one of these people had a Japanese foot pedal lathe, the rokuro. And so they said, "Oh, well, we'll give you the rokuro and we'll show you how to use it so you can make pens." But Endo-san was like, "Oh, well, we have nobody in our company that can do it." So they basically just picked up Kanesaki-san off the streets, who had no idea how to use the rokuro, had no idea what ebonite was, and no idea what pens were, and said, "Okay, yeah, let's learn how to make pens because we've got all the time in the world." And that's how Eboya came to be.
It's the little brother of Nakaya.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting that, this is like the serendipity, right? Like you had some, terrible financial event that almost bankrupts you, right? And then it's really about what you do with that time or what you do with that, result that shows. And now they have one of the more successful Japanese pen brands. I mean, they can barely keep stuff in stock.
And now Kanesaki-san is like the Rokuro grandmaster. He's complaining that no other pen makers are doing it the proper way with Rokuro anymore. He's like the last holdout.
He's the last bastion. Well, at least he's still very young.
Yes.
Yeah, so he's got many decades to pass on his craft. But yeah, I just found that story so funny. It's like you would never imagine that Eboya as a company, or not a company, but as a brand, came out from the financial crisis of 2008. So yeah, just wanted to put that out there. Fun little story that I had when I was visiting Eboya. But
if we have a little bit of time, I just want
Yep.
to bring up one more topic. So you sent me an interesting link a while back.
I did.
Wancher's Sailor vac filler. That's what it looks like.
Oh,
So
yes.
What's going on there?
That's a good question. So we'll have to dig this link up again because it's been a while. But basically, what it looked like was Wancher had a pen with this vacuumatic, so not like the 823, but like the Parker vacuumatic filler, where you would unscrew the back and there's this like knob and you push it and it would suck ink up. But what's interesting about it is that it looked just like a Sailor Pro Gear. So I think some people are saying that it looks also like a wing sung. The mechanism looks like a wing sung vac filler.
But we have confirmed, I think someone contacted them and got the confirmation that it's indeed a Sailor nib/section, I believe.
What if they... But how does that work? Because the Sailor section has a metal part to it, right?
Well, I'm sure it's possible to ask a manufacturer to create a custom barrel that fits. I think that's within the realm of possibilities. What I don't think is possible, what I don't understand is how they could possibly get Sailor to agree to that.
Right. I mean, that and also the MOQs, the minimum order must be huge, and for Sailor to say that, okay, we'll let you use our sections and nibs on some random pen, it seems a little bit suspicious. Maybe,
Yeah, so basically we don't really know what's going on, but it's very interesting because if they somehow manage to get like Sailor nibs and sections, maybe even caps, and then custom-made barrel and filling system, then if this becomes successful, surely other retailers, others are going to be asking for the same thing, right?
it's time for Detective Jacob to put on his cap.
Well, this is your topic. Wancher has been your...
No, I gave you the link and then you take it from there. But no, there might be some things going on,
Yeah.
but we'll keep that off air.
Sure.
Okay. If there's no other topics, let's call it a day. Thank you very much. Again, we know that we've not recorded in a while, so again, not sure if I remember how to do all of this, but thank you everybody so much for listening. My name is CY. You can find me on Instagram at Tokyo Station Pens.
My name is Jacob, and you hopefully still remember how to find me.
Thank you again for having me on the podcast, and thank you for everyone who showed up at San Francisco and online. It was very nice meeting all of you. I'm Khuê. You can find me on Instagram and MidaiCat.
I'm Alesa, Inky Rocks, and this is not my podcast.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.